Hi, my name is Don Anderson, and welcome to the Strat Chat. That's what I'm just calling it. I thought that was a cute name, the Strat Chat. Anyway, I'm going to be talking today a little bit about my personal preference. I don't want to sit here and say this is the only way to handle a Stratocaster setup, but in my experience and years of playing, it's what I have found to be the most versatile and complete an instrument in regards to how it's set up. And that was inspired by the fact that for many years of playing out in bands, I always was carrying several instruments on stage, not for an emergency in case I needed another one. It's because I had different sound needs that required a different instrument to get that sound. I would say the basic difference is the Les Paul or humbucking sound versus the Stratocaster sound or the single coil. You know, obviously there's Tellys, there's Jaguars, there's all kinds of other single coils, but the Strat has, as we all know, is pretty much made famous by, this thing was designed in the early 50s, and I would say arguably the exact guitar that was designed in 1952, I think it was, is still state-of-the-art for the most part today. And you could not change one thing on that instrument, and most guitar players would find it to be a absolutely wonderful instrument, both acoustically and electrically, which is just, it's like, how did they know? How did they know how to make it so right, so perfect? Anyway, this instrument I'm playing today is a 1959 Stratocaster. I, for many years, owned a music store in the Hartford, Connecticut region, and our forte was vintage instruments, used instruments. So a few years back when I was in the business, it was the heyday of old instruments still being out there and around. So I played and had a lot of these old pre-CBS Stratocasters, and this is a absolute gem if in that world. In other words, this is a 59. They call it a transition year because the rosewood neck was predominantly in the 60s, and the two-color sunburst was predominantly in the 50s, but with a maple neck, maple fingerboard. This was a transition year that they said, okay, we'll do the 50s body color, but we're going to try a rosewood neck on this guy. And so these are just very, very unique, and I'm very valuable as well. I'm sure I'm just not ever going to sell this thing. So I don't know how valuable it is. So anyway, but even this instrument, as wonderful as it was and is with its sound originally, I still was not completely satisfied. I had to bring out this instrument and to get all my ones like this. This is one of my favorite old Les Pauls. This has true, real 1950s patent applied fors. I don't want to get into all the explanations, but those are very, very valuable pickups. These are the ones that are inspiring the entire guitar industry as far as humbuckings. Anyway, so this has that sound, and had to bring that out to get it when I had played music. We were doing southern rock and roll and things like that where you needed that Les Paul fat thing. Anyway, I as I got a little older and a little wiser and didn't want to carry so much stuff, I said, I got to make a Strat do more. So I came up with this idea, and I'll just kind of describe the Strat arrangement. We all know that there's 3 single coil pickups on a Strat. This is all original except for that. I added a Seymour Duncan hot rails in the rear position. It's kind of sloppy because I actually threw a little bit of paint on it. It was white. I wanted to make it look a little closer to the other look. The guitar is so chopped up that it didn't need to be perfect. So as far as looks, anyway, this is a dual coil environment. So essentially, it's a humbucker in a little body. So that it can fit into these cavities and get that Les Paul tone. and which was great. But then I got in there and I said, "Oh damn, I missed that old sound of that stinging, trebly, Strat high-end thing that you get out of your treble position pickup." So what I came up with was an original Strat has the 3 pickups. This is a master tone, a master volume, and a master tone. Whereas this used to be tone for this guy, and this was tone for this pickup, and master tone for all of them. What I did is made it as a master volume for everything and a master tone for everything. And this guy is the magic one. This is an actual volume control for one of the coils. So when you are in the treble position or the bridge pickup, you can slowly bring in the other coil, have it all the way off. It is a single coil Fender, true Fender tone. As you bring it in slowly, you're adding a little bit at a time the Les Paul or the humbucking fatness, or quieter, obviously, for the humbucking technique. It's coffee. Anyway, so I'll show you what this sounds like in just a moment. But again, the beauty here is that it's not on or off, single or dual coil. It is single or a little bit of humbuck or just a tad. And you can play with that and play with that. So there's literally dozens of tones with just here, here, and here, bringing up and down that coil in the treble position. Then you start mixing, going back one click. So you got these 2 pickups. Now you got 2 single coils, or playing with this guy, you've got 2 single coil and a humbucker, or single coil and a kind of humbucker. So again, dozens of tonality and harmonic values in here when you start mixing those 2 together. So what you get is just a whole spectrum of added tonalities in there. So when I did that, I literally would get people coming up to me on, when we played out, and they, seldom said how great I played, but they always said, "Your sound is amazing. I've never heard blah, 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 blah." And I was a real stickler with my tones and my pedals and the amp I was using and speakers, so I was very into sound, getting the sound right. And then I figured out how to play after that. But anyway, so that idea, people started asking me, well, how do I do that with mine? And instead of giving away my ideas, I decided for many years to build my own. And in my music store, I owned a music store, as I said, for about 25 years. And during that period, I was making these guitars. I made about 30 of them. There wasn't I didn't go into it like mass production, that kind of thing. I wanted one at a time guitars, hand done. I cut the necks basically myself, hand cut and finish the necks. These are nitrocellulose lacquer necks with a V shape, very warm. I went after the old model as my target, but the electronics are identical. This is a Seymour Duncan vintage, and then the Hot Rails, same thing, tap for the coil. So this one is wonderful. I don't have any of these left. I stopped selling them years ago, but everybody who bought them has come back to me and said, this thing is like, I'll never sell it, everybody wants them. Now they can't find me, so they're no longer available. Anyway, it's called a D Custom. If you ever see on in the market, there's my logo. It's just, inlay that we did, D for Don. Anyway, that's that. But let's get into the sound of this thing. So normal Strat crazy front pickup, which we all know is a loosen up a little bit. Nice front coil, that jazzy, sweet. clicks into the next pickup, middle pickup. Little bit treblier. Front pickup. Middle. Those are basically the original Strat sounds. Now I get into, and it's a little noisy because I'm in front of these monitors here that are giving me a little bit of tone problem. Anyway, so now I'm going to click it into the bridge pickup in single coil mode. Very sharp, very edgy. Now I'm going to slowly just bring in a little bit of it. Get a little bit of a roundness come in there. Still has that sting, but it's a little rounder. I'm going to take it all off of here again. That's single. Bring in a little. Now I'm going to push it all the way. That's all humbucker, and that thing just rings like a, Strat-ish flavor, but definitely a Les Paul chunk. Anyway, just a quick view on the setup of my Stratocaster, and if you are interested in the wiring configuration, I can send that out to you. I'd be happy to share that with you if you'd like. But it is absolutely, when you're on stage working for that tone within songs and needing a little bit more darker harmonic value in a solo or even chording, it's just a great utility of tonality. So I wish all the best, and if there's anybody interested in that configuration, I'd be happy to send out some information on how to wire it like that. Don Anderson here for the Strat Chat for today. Thanks and goodbye.